Welcome to Upticks. I'm Jake Falcon, the founder of Falcon Wealth Advisors and your host for Upticks.
And I'm Corey Bittner, the COO and co-founder of Falcon Wealth Advisors.
Today is our 61st episode, Understanding Your Options.
We're going to talk about understanding your savings options and your 401k, and then also all the different options when it comes to investing.
Okay, Corey, so to kick us off here, well, we wanted to talk about all the various options that are available to you in your 401k as you approach or get into retirement. So many of our clients have worked at their companies for 30 years plus, and when they're getting ready to leave, it's a very big decision and an anxiety-driven moment because it involves typically, if you're going to work with an advisor, a transfer of your funds. But before they do that, they actually have one big option, which is to leave the funds right in their 401k. Why don't you explain what that would look like?
Most companies allow someone upon retirement or separation from the company to leave their 401k plan and leave that balance right where it is. And at that point in time, if somebody retires, they leave it where it is. They basically stay invested the way that they were invested previously. And the participant, is really the one who bears the responsibility of making sure that the money's invested properly. In theory, you could retire, walk away from your job, not check your 401k, and it would just stay doing exactly what it's doing. Again, the challenge there is simply that you are limited to whatever funds are available. And then secondly, if you're going off into retirement and that's what you accumulated throughout your career, you've got to make it last.
Right. So this, for people that do this, it's typically for the do-it-yourselfer. So say, you know what, I like managing my 401k myself. I've done it for 30 years. I'm comfortable with the investment options. I understand all of the fees. I understand of the underlying investments themselves, and I want to leave it there. You could obviously still engage with a financial advisor, and we're happy to do that. So if you said, you know what, Jake, I'll manage the 401k. I'll just pay you and Corey a retainer fee for your financial planning and your opinion on some things. We can do that. So again, you don't have to roll over your 401k to work with an advisor. Again, you would be responsible though typically for all of the investment decisions in that type of relationship. Not a horrible thing, but it is bearing a lot of important decisions on your plate. We at Falcon Wealth Advisors, we're trading individual stocks for our clients, so we're looking at the market on a daily basis. And that's not something that everybody wants to do in retirement. They don't want to look at the market every single day, or most people probably shouldn't be looking at the market every day because it will drive them crazy.
That's right.
Another big option would be just cashing it out and putting it in your checking account. Why don't you go over what that looks like?
Not good. Well, I say not good, but let me at least explain what that means. If you were to retire from your company, cash it out, just like Jake said. If you were the age of 59 and a half or older, basically the whole dollar amount that comes out would get treated as taxable income. So if you had $1 million in your 401k, you retire and cash it out, you're going to owe income tax on $1 million, which could be, obviously upwards 30 to 40%, just on the federal side. You put it in your checking account, so maybe you net something like $600,000, $500,000 from that, and then it's sitting there and it's earning whatever your checking account does. Some people like the idea of having all of their money right there and available to them, but short of something miraculous happening, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of growth in that type of scenario. And again, it's just a lot of taxes to pay all at once.
Yeah, and you have to be careful because typically if you do this type of transaction and you cash it in, you normally can't reverse it.
Right.
Or you have 60 days to reverse it or something, but you have to be very careful. So this is if you're trying to do something on your own and you're not really familiar with the lingo or the rules, you got to be careful because if you think you're rolling over your 401k but you don't use the proper terminology, you could actually cash it out, which would create a huge tax liability for you potentially.
And it can happen by just checking the wrong box.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have paperwork to fill out and you don't check the IRA rollover box, they're just going to send you a check and they're going to count it as a taxable distribution. And there's not much you can do. Now, if you have a smaller balance, let's say you've only worked at your company a couple of years and you need the money for something else, maybe to pay off debt. So it's not a horrible thing, but again, you just want to be aware of your option. That's the whole theme of today's show, is understanding your options and making sure that you know what you're getting into before you do it.
Now, this is really just kind of nuanced, but one point to make though is I believe it's an IRS rule, is that if you do cash out your 401k, they will automatically withhold 20% for federal taxes. So even if you were talking about trying to reverse it,
it'd be hard
even
to
if you do that, they've already withheld that money for taxes. So anyway.
It'd be kind of hard to do, yeah. So the third option that I wanted to talk about would be rolling over your 401k to an IRA. That's what most of our clients typically do. So again, at that point, you would be separating from your company, you're retired, and now you want to have full control of your assets. You don't want to leave them in the 401k. There are no taxes when you do this, typically, as long as you do it right. It rolls into an IRA, and as long as you're 59 and a half, there are no penalties to pulling out distributions from your IRA. Now, what you get with that is you get a lot more control. Again, with our clients, we're buying individual stocks and bonds, so typically, in some instances, we're able to lower the fees. We certainly have more transparency normally, and again, more control over your investments. And that's when you typically will engage with a financial advisor, and they'll provide you advice and opinion and invest the money for you on your behalf. And that's a very popular way of doing it. You also can convert it to a Roth IRA. Again, that gets a little tricky because you typically have to pay some taxes. But then if you put it in a Roth IRA and you take distributions after the age of 59 and a half, now they're tax-free. So you don't owe any taxes, and you can do a combination of the two. But again, the point of this, so there's 4 options, right? 1, leave it where it is. 2, put it in your checking account. 3, roll it into an IRA, or 4, convert some of it to a Roth IRA. The point of today's show is that there are some big decisions to make when you retire, and you don't have to go at it alone. We recommend working with a fiduciary-minded advisor, somebody that's going to act in your best interest, and that's going to give you a good, solid advice, and most importantly, probably that is very familiar with the process. Because you and I are chartered retirement planning counselors, that's what we've studied the majority of our careers, and that's where most of our clients are using us for their help, is in that transition.
And taking that a step further, really the way that we've built out our business and our clientele is there's a handful of companies that we've gotten to know very well. So we're very familiar with the specific process, company specific for retirement, which is all the more reason I think if you're interviewing advisors or you're looking for someone to help you out, if somebody does happen to know the familiarity of your company, that's just going to help everything.
Right. Good. So again, those are our planning options. And again, we're here to assist you in those. Typically our clients don't make those options on their own. They come to us. Yeah, we help them make good decisions. I also want to talk about investment options, right? Because once you do make a decision, let's say you do decide to roll it into an IRA, well, now you've opened up into this huge ocean of investment options, and there's a lot of stuff out there. But we really wanted to talk about 4 things. I wanted to talk about mutual funds, exchange traded funds, annuities, and then just buying individual stocks and bonds.
Okay.
So why don't you kick us off here with kind of explaining briefly what a mutual fund is and what that looks like.
A mutual fund at a high level is effectively a professionally managed fund, typically by a mutual fund company. And the idea is if you purchase a mutual fund, you own shares of a fund. And then inside of that fund, the manager is buying and selling securities. So the stocks.
And bonds, right.
And bonds. So the idea there is if you're invested in that fund, you don't own the companies outright, you just own shares of the fund in your account. And then there's a money manager who's making the investment decisions, and typically there's a cost associated with that.
Yeah, and I think there's probably over 10,000 mutual funds to choose from. A lot of financial advisors use mutual funds because they're either not qualified or they don't have the time to pick individual stocks and bonds on behalf of their clients. Mutual funds aren't necessarily a bad thing, but you have to be very careful because they do carry internal fees that typically average somewhere around 1%. So if a financial advisor quotes you 1% for their fee and they're using mutual funds, you're probably going to be paying somewhere around 2%, which can be really high, relatively speaking, and eat into your returns, which would ultimately eat into your retirement.
Yep, and the only other point that I want to make there is, generally speaking, most mutual funds that an advisor would buy for a client could go buy on their own.
Right. So you don't need the advisor. So our whole argument is we don't dislike mutual funds. We just don't use them for our clients because if a client wants to buy a mutual fund, they should just go directly and buy it themselves.
Right.
And then they could cut out that advisor fee and lower their costs.
Right. And not to mention the mutual fund, really the return has to exceed the benchmark after the manager's fee to justify owning it to begin with.
Right. So they have to beat the benchmark. And then if your advisor's charging a fee, they got to beat it by that much more. Yeah. So it's very hard for a mutual fund to keep up in there. And you hear them as safe instruments, and that's why I wanted to point out when you said securities, what a mutual fund's doing is in essence the same thing that we're doing. We're buying stocks and bonds for our clients.
Right.
That's what a mutual fund does. They buy stocks and bonds. Right? That's the very same concept that we're doing. We just don't use a product. We literally go direct for our clients.
Okay, so second.
Another very popular instrument right now is what's something called an exchange traded fund or an ETF or an index fund. Their fees are very low. I mean, some of them are even close to free now. But again, with that, basically what that is, it's another pooled investment. You get a basket, so you basically own everything in the market or the index or whatever it's tracking. Very low fees because nobody's managing it, nobody's watching it. And then if advisor's using it, certainly you got to pay the advisor fee on top of whatever the exchange traded fees are. We don't personally like index funds because of our investment philosophy. We worry that if a stock is going down or going bankrupt or being mismanaged, if you own an index fund, you're going to ride that stock all the way down, potentially to zero. And so we think that index funds are very risky in a down market. And so that's one of the reasons that we don't use them. They are very low cost though. So again, they're probably, a good alternative to a mutual fund, or maybe if you're doing it yourself, maybe use a blend of the two to keep your costs down. But we don't like them because again, because nobody's watching your money, if a stock is going bankrupt, you're going to lose money in that stock and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. If you own the S&P 500 index fund that represents the 500 largest companies in the United States, and it goes down 35% next year, that fund is going to go down 35%.
Right. Or if one stock goes to zero,
inside the fund,
you're going to ride that. When we're picking stocks for our clients, we're hopefully picking stocks that aren't going to do that, or we certainly will get out of them if we think that the water's going to be choppy.
And again, while those management costs are lower, in my mind, it's a similar concept in that I don't necessarily need to pay an advisor a percentage of my assets to go buy me a fund that I could go buy myself.
Exactly. Yeah. So you got to be very careful with that too, because the index fund, their whole premise is that their costs are low. Mm-hmm. So if you're only charging, if they're only charging you, 0.1% or 0.2%, but then your advisor's tacking on 1% on top of that, well, now you're paying over 1% for this product that is designed to be very low cost.
And mirror the market.
Yeah, so we really disagree with financial advisors that charge clients an asset-based fee to put them in an index fund.
Agreed.
Because they're literally not doing anything to manage the money. They're just picking a fund, and that should be some sort of maybe one-time consultation fee, not an ongoing management fee. Because again, they're not doing anything.
No, they're not managing it. The concept of most ETFs or exchange traded funds is that they are passively managed, meaning they're not managed.
Right. So if an advisor,
why are you charging a management
yeah. So
fee?
be careful if your financial advisor has you in an exchange traded fund and they are charging you an asset fee. I would be very careful of that advisor because again, they're just doing it, but they're not really doing any work managing the money. A third option are annuities. Annuities are insurance products. I could go on my soapbox for about an hour on these. Fees are typically triple what a normal fee is. And you're paying for a quote-unquote guarantee, again, only provided by the insurance company. We don't like annuities at all because their fees are high and they typically come with restrictions, meaning you can't access your money for a certain number of years. So just be wary of an annuity salesman. They probably make sense for a very small group of the population, but a lot of these annuity salesmen will try to sell them to everybody because they pay high commissions.
Right.
So you're going to get your flashy steak dinners or, good talkers, right? Smooth talkers will be selling annuities because again, they pay these salespeople a very high commission. So you're naturally going to attract a good salesperson to sell you an annuity.
And they come out of the woodworks when the market starts getting volatile because people get scared. Understandably so, we're all human and we're all emotional. Right. And if somebody sells you on the idea of, hey, you know what, you're never going to have to worry about this stock market volatility again with this wonderful thing that I have to sell you.
Right.
People, of course, are okay, I'm all ears because I don't like seeing all this volatility.
Yeah, so be careful. So if the market does pull back and then you start hearing more about annuities, they're just trying to sell on fear.
Yes.
At Falcon Wealth Advisors, we don't use fear or greed as motivators. They say that's the biggest motivator for people, but I don't want to live my life scaring people or promising huge returns, and that's how I get clients.
Right.
It's a bad way to live, in my opinion, and I don't want to try to influence behavior because I scared somebody. It's stupid, in my opinion.
And you're really selling something to someone that you have absolutely no control over.
Yep. So again, the final, which we think is the best, that's obviously the way that we're doing it for our clients, is we literally just go buy stocks and bonds directly. Again, we're cutting out all these products, so we're not in mutual funds or ETFs or annuities. We prefer to do that with clients that have enough money to do it. Now, if you don't have a lot of money and you're just starting out, some of these products may make sense. But again, most all of our clients do have enough to buy stocks, and so that's why we do it that way. And again, you're just buying the individual stocks. We have a full-time analyst who just passed level 2 of the Chartered Financial Analyst designation. And that's Jesse, that's his job. He helps monitor the market. He's monitoring clients' portfolios. And then with my guidance, Corey's input when we need it, we talk about different big decisions that we're making within the portfolio. Very transparent, low cost, high control, and that's why we like doing it. And we're happy if you're watching this and you're not a client and you want to compare portfolios, say, well, okay, you guys pick stocks, I'm in mutual funds. How have you done? And we're happy to show you a side-by-side of how we've done. Our performance has done pretty well. Again, we're not always going to beat the market, and that's not necessarily what we're trying to do. We're really just trying to hit our specific clients' target rates of return. But we think by buying individual stocks and bonds, that allows us to do that in the most efficient manner.
Yep, exactly.
Did I miss anything on that?
I don't think so. I guess the last point I want to make is just because I brought it up about mutual funds and exchange traded funds is similarly, if somebody wanted to just go buy stocks themselves, they certainly could.
A good point.
The idea there, though, is knowing what stocks to buy, knowing when to trade them. That's going to be probably more challenging than it would be with the mutual funds. The difference, though, is that that's part of what our clients are paying us to do, versus putting your money in a fund, paying an advisor to put your money in a fund for you. Our clients are paying us a fee, of course, but it is for us to go buy the individual securities, not go pass the asset management off to someone else.
Right. Good point.
Yep.
All right, very good. So that goes into financial planning, understanding your options, and then you got to remember there's a lot of investment options. So it's very confusing. It's a lot of stuff to go through. Again, in our opinion, you just want to work with a fiduciary-minded advisor. And if you go back to episode 60 of Upticks, we did talk about what you should be looking for in a relationship with your advisor to help make some of these very important decisions.
Yep.
So transitioning now over to our fun topics. I know you're getting married very soon. I wanted to talk about your wedding rings. Did you pick out, do you already have your ring?
I do.
What metal did you choose, or did you even choose a metal?
I believe it's tungsten. If it's not tungsten, it's titanium. It's one of those two.
Mine's tungsten.
Hey, there you go.
You're copying me?
Maybe. It's a little bit darker than yours.
So you got like a darker finish, silverish?
No, it's darker. It's more like it's like a dark metal.
Nice. Are you excited? Are you a guy that's going to wear your wedding ring?
Yeah, I am.
Some guys don't.
Yeah, I know.
They just don't like wearing a ring on their finger.
I will.
But you're going to wear it.
I will.
Cassie probably make you.
I don't know if she'll make me, but I think she would expect me to.
And what about her ring? Did you do you remember what kind of cut of the diamond? I know there's like a cushion cut or an oval or
the engagement ring.
Yeah,
I think it was called a princess cut.
Princess cut. Is that like a square?
Kind of.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's more of a square than like an oval or like an octagon or something like that. It's a little bit more squared.
Perfect. Well, that's fun. And I know you were thinking about writing a blog on wedding planning as a financial perspective. Are you still going to be pushing that out?
Absolutely. I want to wait until all is said and done and
Good
then
idea.
put that out because
Probably include the honeymoon too.
Yep.
So nice. So stay tuned for that. So Corey's going to probably be writing a blog here in the next month or two about the financial side of wedding planning. So to share with, certainly if you're getting married or if your children or grandchildren are getting married, we think it'll be a good document to share with people when they're looking at the financial side of marriage.
And alongside that, I will also share a blog post that Matt wrote about the tax deductibility of weddings.
Oh, nice. Good. That's good. Another good one. So
There's something to be mindful of.
It's already out there on our blog?
Yeah.
Perfect. So if you go to falconwealthadvisors.com under content, you can certainly find Matt's blog out there about potentially saving some taxes when you're spending money on your wedding.
That's right.
Perfect. So that's all the time that we have for today. We want to thank you as always for tuning in. Certainly, if you're watching this on YouTube and you think it's thumbs up worthy, please give us a thumbs up or subscribe to our channel. You can also find us on Spotify and iTunes or the podcast section of Apple if you want to subscribe there so you don't miss an episode as we push these out. And also, if you think it's 5-star worthy, we really would appreciate a good rating. We're out there on the social media platforms as well, so Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I'm out there on Twitter. I don't have that many followers, but if you want to go out there and follow me on Twitter, believe it or not, the demographic, I think, is most people are over the age of 40 or 50 on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Jake Falcon CRPC. And Corey, what's yours?
My Twitter handle is @CoreyBittner KC.
Perfect. Thanks again for tuning in, and we hope you all have a great week.